I walked into my own house to find my pregnant wife straddling my business rival on our marriage bed, her hand clutching the ultrasound photo of our son. The image burned itself into my brain. Jenny's hair cascaded down her bare back, Ryan's hands gripping her waist, and between them on the crumpled sheets, the black and white image of my child, my son. The baby we'd celebrated just 3 weeks ago when the doctor confirmed it was a boy. "Kevin!" Jenny scrambled off Ryan, her face flushed, but there was no shame in her eyes. Only irritation. Like I was the one interrupting something important. Ryan didn't even bother to cover himself. He leaned back against my headboard, arms crossed behind his head, a smile playing on his lips. "Bad timing, Kev. We were just celebrating some good news." My hands shook. I'd come home early to surprise Jenny with the crib I'd spent 3 months saving for. It was still in my truck, wrapped in blue paper covered in tiny elephants. She'd said elephants were her favorite. "Get out," I whispered. "This is awkward." Ryan stood up slowly, deliberately taking his time pulling on his pants. "See, here's the thing, Kevin. Jenny and I have been meaning to talk to you." Jenny wrapped herself in our bedsheet, the one with the ivory lace trim her mother had given us as a wedding gift. "Kevin, sit down. We need to discuss this like adults." "Adults?" The word came out as a bark. "You're sleeping with him while carrying my child." "Your child?" Ryan laughed, buttoning his shirt. "Buddy, you might want to check your math on that one." The room tilted. "What?" Jenny wouldn't meet my eyes. She clutched the ultrasound tighter, and I noticed her hand trembling for the first time. "Kevin, I didn't know how to tell you. The baby, Ryan and I, we've been together for over a year. A year. We'd been married for 3 years. The math wasn't adding up. And then it was adding up too well. And I felt my knees buckle. "You're lying." But even as I said it, I was counting back, the conception date the doctor had given us. The weekend I'd been in Chicago for that conference, Jenny had called me crying, saying she missed me, that the house felt empty without me. She'd been with him then. She'd called me from our bed, probably with Ryan right there next to her. "The baby is Ryan's," Jenny said, and her voice had gone cold now, all pretense of guilt vanishing. "We're in love, Kevin. We have been for a long time. I only stayed with you because, well, you were stable, safe. But Ryan's company just landed the Meridian contract. The contract I was supposed to get." The words came out hollow. Ryan had undercut my bid by exactly 3%. I'd wondered how he'd known my numbers. Now I knew. Jenny handled my books. She'd seen every proposal, every bid, every confidential document that crossed my home office desk. Business is business. Ryan shrugged into his jacket, expensive Italian leather that cost more than my monthly mortgage payment. "You understand, right? No hard feelings?" No hard feelings. He'd stolen my wife, my child, my biggest contract, and he wanted no hard feelings. "Get out of my house." My voice didn't sound like mine anymore. It sounded like something hollow, something broken. "Actually," Ryan pulled out his phone, scrolling through it casually. "About that, Jenny, show him." Jenny reached into the nightstand, my nightstand, and pulled out a folder. She held it out to me, her hand steady now. "I'm filing for divorce. My lawyer already has the papers." "And Kevin?" "I'm keeping the house." I stared at the folder like it was a snake. "You can't keep my house. I built this company from nothing. I bought this house." "That's in my name," she interrupted. "Remember? Your credit was shot when we got married. The house is in my name. The car is in my name. And according to my lawyer, since the baby is Ryan's, and you're clearly not fit to be around a pregnant woman given your violent tendencies." Violent? I'd never raised a hand to her, never even raised my voice until today. "You're scaring me right now, Kevin." Jenny backed away from me, and I realized Ryan had his phone up, recording. "Look how aggressive you're being." This was planned. Every word, every movement. They'd choreographed this. "You're setting me up!" The realization crashed over me like cold water. I'm protecting myself and my baby." Jenny placed a hand on her stomach, and that gesture, one I'd seen her do 100 times, one that had filled me with such joy, now felt like a knife between my ribs. Ryan is going to be a wonderful father. He already loves this baby so much. My baby. My son. I'd felt him kick 2 nights ago, my hand pressed against Jenny's belly while we watched a movie. She'd laughed and said he was going to be a soccer player with kicks like that. I'd started looking up youth soccer leagues in our area. "I want a paternity test." "Fine." Ryan pocketed his phone. "But it'll just be a waste of everyone's time and your money. Which, let's be honest, you don't have much of anymore, not since I got the Meridian contract." He was right. That contract would have saved my struggling company. Without it, I had maybe 3 months before I'd have to start laying people off. 6 months before I'd have to close the doors entirely. "I need you to leave, Kevin." Jenny's voice had shifted to something almost gentle, and somehow that was worse than the coldness. It was the voice she used with telemarketers and door-to-door salesmen, polite but dismissive. "I'll have my lawyer send you the paperwork. You can stay at a hotel tonight. I've already changed the locks." "Change the locks? This is my house." "It's my house," she corrected softly. "And I have a restraining order being filed as we speak. My lawyer is waiting for my call. If you don't leave peacefully, I'll have to tell him you were threatening." Ryan draped his arm around Jenny's shoulders. She leaned into him naturally, comfortably, like they'd done this 1,000 times before. They probably had. "Come on, Kev, be reasonable. We can handle this like gentlemen. Jenny and I want to start our family in peace. The baby deserves a stable environment." Our son. They were talking about our son like I was some stranger, some threat. I looked at Jenny, really looked at her, searching for any trace of the woman I'd married. The woman who'd cried when I proposed because she said she'd never felt so loved. The woman who'd held my hand through my father's funeral and told me we'd get through anything together. She looked back at me with a stranger's eyes. "Jenny, please." I hated how my voice cracked. "We can work through this. We can get counseling, whatever you need. But that's my baby. You can't just—" "He's not your baby, Kevin. He never was." She touched her stomach again. "And honestly, I'm relieved. Ryan will be such a better father. He's successful, ambitious, everything you're not." Every word was a calculated strike. She knew exactly what to say to break me. She'd learned every insecurity, every fear, every doubt I'd ever shared with her in 3 years of marriage, and now she was using them like weapons. "I gave you everything." My voice was barely a whisper now. "You gave me a mediocre life," she replied. "Ryan's giving me the life I deserve." Ryan checked his Rolex, the one I'd admired when he'd first worn it to our business association meeting 6 months ago. "We should get going, babe. We have that dinner reservation at Astra. I want to make sure our baby gets only the best nutrition." Our baby. He kept saying it so casually, like he actually believed it. Or maybe he knew the truth and just didn't care. Maybe that was part of the game. Making me watch as he claimed everything that was mine. Jenny kissed him. Right there, 3 feet away from me, she kissed him like I didn't exist. When they broke apart, she looked at me one last time. "Goodbye, Kevin. My lawyer will be in touch." They walked past me, Jenny clutching Ryan's arm, both of them stepping around me like I was a piece of furniture. I heard their footsteps on the stairs, heard the front door open and close, heard Ryan's car, a BMW M5 that cost more than I'd make in 2 years, roar to life in my driveway. I stood in my bedroom that wasn't my bedroom anymore, staring at the tangled sheets, the ultrasound photo lying face up where Jenny had dropped it. I picked it up with shaking hands. There was my son. I could see his profile, his tiny nose, the curve of his spine. The date in the corner confirmed what I already knew in my bones. This was my child. The conception date matched perfectly with the weekend of my anniversary, when Jenny and I had gone to that bed and breakfast in Vermont. She'd been so loving that weekend, so attentive. She She'd told me she wanted to start our family. How long had she been planning this? Had she gotten pregnant intentionally, knowing she'd take my child and give him to Ryan? Or had it been an accident that she'd simply decided to exploit? My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "This is Jenny's attorney, Daniel Morrison. Mrs. Harris has requested that you vacate the property immediately. Failure to do so will result in police involvement. The locks have been changed. Do not attempt to return. Further communication will be handled through this office only." Mrs. Harris. She was already using Ryan's last name. Another text came through, this one from Ryan himself. "No hard feelings, buddy. Business is business. But hey, at least you won't have to deal with diapers and sleepless nights, right? I'll take good care of my family." The emoji. He'd added a winking emoji, like this was all some joke we were sharing. I looked around the room one last time, at the maternity clothes draped over the chair that I'd helped Jenny pick out, at the stack of baby books on her nightstand that we'd been reading together, at the space on the wall where we'd planned to hang the sonogram photo. My phone buzzed again. This time it was my business partner, Marcus. "Dude, where are you?" "Ryan Harris just showed up at Lawson's office. He's telling everyone you had a breakdown and attacked him and Jenny. Says she had to file a restraining order. What the hell is going on?" They weren't just taking everything. They were destroying my reputation too. By tomorrow, everyone in our industry would know some twisted version of this story. Kevin, the violent husband. Kevin, the failure. Kevin, who couldn't keep his wife or his business. I walked downstairs in a daze. The crib was still in my truck, wrapped in elephant paper. I'd spent the morning assembling the surprise in my workshop, my hands shaking with excitement, thinking about my son sleeping in it. I sat in my truck for a long time, staring at that wrapped crib, while the house I'd bought became a prison I could never enter again. My phone rang. I answered without looking. "Mr. Peterson, this is Officer Diana Reeves with the County Sheriff's Department. I have a restraining order here filed by Jennifer Peterson, now going by Jennifer Harris. You're required to stay at least 500 feet away from her, her residence, and her place of work. Do you understand?" "That's my house," I said numbly. "Not according to the deed on file, sir. I'm sorry, but you need to find somewhere else to stay. If you violate this order, you'll be arrested. Do you understand?" I understood. I understood that in the span of 1 hour, I'd lost my wife, my child, my home, my reputation, and possibly my business. "I understand," I whispered. I started the truck and drove. I didn't know where I was going. Away. Just away. In my rearview mirror, I could see my house, the pale blue Victorian with the white shutters that Jenny had loved. We'd painted it together 2 summers ago. I'd fallen off the ladder and she'd laughed so hard she'd cried, and then she'd kissed every scrape and told me I was her hero for doing this for us. All lies. Every moment, every kiss, every whispered promise, all lies. My phone buzzed one more time. Another text from Ryan. "Oh, and Kev, we're announcing the pregnancy on social media tonight. Don't worry, I'll make sure everyone knows what a deadbeat you are. Wouldn't want anyone to get confused about who the real father is." I pulled over to the side of the road and threw up. When I finally looked up, my reflection stared back at me from the rear-view mirror. I looked like a ghost. Like I'd already died, but my body hadn't gotten the message yet. Maybe that's exactly what I needed to be. If Jenny wanted to tell everyone I was nothing, fine. Let her think she'd won. Let Ryan think he'd destroyed me. Let them both believe Kevin Peterson was finished. Because somewhere in the hollow space where my heart used to be, something else was taking root. Something cold and patient and calculating. They'd taken everything from me. Now I'd take everything from them. Not today, not tomorrow, but soon. I'd become the ghost they'd tried to make me. And ghosts, I was learning, could move through the world unseen, learning secrets, waiting for the perfect moment to make the living remember that some debts can never be forgotten. I pulled back onto the road, leaving my old life behind in that rearview mirror. The game had just begun. They just didn't know it yet. I spent that first night in a motel that charged by the hour, watching my social media feeds explode with Jenny and Ryan's announcement. The photo was perfect, professionally lit, probably taken weeks ago. Jenny glowed in a flowing white dress, her hand resting on her barely visible bump. Ryan stood behind her, his hands covering hers, both of them beaming at the camera. The caption made my blood boil. "We're having a boy! Ryan and I couldn't be happier to start our family together. Thank you all for the love and support during this beautiful journey. Ashit blessed. Beyond measure # new beginnings." The comments rolled in by the hundreds. "Congratulations. So happy for you both. You'll be amazing parents. What a beautiful couple. Not one person asked about me. It was like our 3-year marriage had never existed." Then I saw Marcus had texted again. "Jenny's lawyer sent a letter to all our clients. Says you're temporarily stepping back due to personal issues and that she's concerned about the company's stability. Kevin, we're losing contracts. Call me." They weren't just destroying me. They were systematically dismantling everything I'd built. I stared at the water-stained ceiling of that motel room until sunrise, and then I made a decision. If they wanted me to disappear, I'd disappear. But not the way they expected. The next morning, I drove to my mother's house 3 towns over. She'd died 2 years ago, leaving me her small cottage on the edge of town. I'd been meaning to sell it, but never got around to it. Now, it was the only property Jenny hadn't known about, hadn't put her name on. It became my base of operations. I started by doing exactly what they expected. I played the broken man. I stopped showing up to the office, letting Marcus handle the day-to-day operations. I stopped fighting the restraining order. I even checked myself into a grief counseling group at the local church, where I sat quietly and listened to other people's pain while hiding my own. People saw what they wanted to see. Kevin Peterson, the man who'd lost everything, barely holding it together. But at night, in my mother's cottage, I worked. I hired a private investigator named Sarah Chen. She was expensive, but she was worth every penny. "I need to know everything," I told her. "Bank accounts, phone records, emails, everything." "You sure you want to do this?" Sarah asked, studying me with sharp eyes. "Sometimes the truth is worse than the mystery." The truth is all I have left. Within a week, Sarah delivered her first report. I read it in my car, parked in the shadows of a grocery store parking lot, and felt my hands start shaking again. But this time, from something other than grief. Jenny and Ryan had been planning this for 18 months. There were hotel receipts, vacation photos from trips they'd taken while I was working, credit card statements showing jewelry purchases that had never made it to Jenny's jewelry box, at least not while I was around. But the real bombshell was buried in an email exchange Sarah had recovered from Ryan's supposedly secure server. An email from Ryan to Jenny dated 3 months before she got pregnant. "Once you're pregnant, we move forward with the plan. Make sure it happens on a night you can prove you were with Kevin. The timing has to be perfect. He'll never question that the baby is his, and once we have the kid, we have leverage. He'll be so destroyed he won't fight back. Then I can finally destroy Peterson Construction from the inside." I read that line over and over until the words burned themselves into my brain. She'd gotten pregnant intentionally. With my child. Specifically to use him as a weapon against me. The next email was even worse. Jenny's response: "What about after? Kevin won't just disappear quietly." Ryan's reply: "He will, once we're done with him. I've already planted rumors about his drinking problem with the business association. Morrison has the restraining order ready to file. By the time we're done, Kevin Peterson won't exist anymore. Not in any way that matters." They'd planned everything, every betrayal, every humiliation, every loss. It had all been choreographed months in advance. I sat in that car until my phone buzzed. "Sarah, there's more. Call me when you're ready." I called immediately. "What else?" "The Meridian contract. Ryan didn't just undercut your bid. He paid someone in your office to steal your proposals. I have proof. Wire transfers, recorded phone calls. It's corporate espionage, Kevin. You could have him prosecuted." Who? My voice came out strangled. Who sold me out? A pause. Your secretary, Amanda. Ryan's been paying her for information for over a year. She's the one who told him about your bids, your financial problems, everything. Amanda. Sweet, quiet Amanda who'd worked for me since I started the company, who I'd given Christmas bonuses to, who I'd helped when her car broke down. There's more, Sarah continued. Jenny's been siphoning money from your joint accounts into an offshore account in the Caymans. About $200,000 total. All your savings, Kevin. Everything you put aside for the business, for the baby. It's all gone. I couldn't breathe. $200,000. Years of work, of sacrifice. Can I prove it? I can prove all of it. But Kevin, you need to be smart about how you use this. If you go to the police now, Ryan has expensive lawyers who'll bury this in motions and delays for years. You need to be strategic. Strategic. I'd been trying to build a legitimate business while Ryan had been building a criminal empire. The difference between us wasn't talent or drive. It was that I'd played by the rules while he'd been cheating the whole time. What do you suggest? I asked. You need more. Right now, you have evidence of theft and fraud. But Ryan's insulated. He'll throw Jenny and Amanda under the bus if he has to. You need something that directly implicates him in a way he can't escape. And you need leverage, something that makes going after you more expensive than leaving you alone. I understood. I needed to be patient. I needed to let them think they'd won while I gathered everything I needed to destroy them completely. Over the next month, I became a ghost in my own life. I attended my counseling sessions and played the depressed ex-husband. I stopped fighting the divorce proceedings. I let Marcus run the company while I supposedly recovered, but every night I worked. Sarah discovered that Ryan's company was leveraged to the teeth. The Meridian contract was the only thing keeping him afloat. If he lost it, his entire empire would crumble. Better yet, she found irregularities in how he'd secured the contract. Bribes paid to a city official, falsified safety reports, substandard materials being used in projects. He's building a house of cards, Sarah told me. One strong wind and the whole thing collapses. I wanted to be that wind, but I had to wait for the right moment. Meanwhile, Jenny's pregnancy progressed. I saw photos on social media. Ryan at every doctor's appointment, his hand always possessively on her stomach. The comments gushed about what a devoted father he was already. It made me sick. That was my son. My DNA. My child growing inside her while she let another man play daddy. Then came the baby shower. Jenny posted about it constantly. The elaborate decorations, the expensive gifts, the designer nursery Ryan had set up in my former house. Every post was a knife in my chest. But one photo caught my attention. In the background, barely visible, was a stack of papers on the kitchen counter. I zoomed in, enhanced the image on my computer. The letterhead was visible. Meridian Development Corporation, confidential. I sent the image to Sarah. What are these? She called me back within an hour. Those are project proposals. Kevin, if those are the originals and they're sitting out at a baby shower, Ryan's getting sloppy. He's supposed to keep those in a secure location per his contract. This is a breach. Can we use it? Not yet, but keep watching. Arrogant men make mistakes. She was right. Ryan was getting careless. Success had made him bold, and boldness made him stupid. I started following them, carefully, always staying within the legal boundaries. I watched as Ryan met with the city official he'd bribed, watched as that official handed him an envelope in a parking garage. I watched as Ryan took Jenny to expensive restaurants, always paying cash, always making a show of his wealth. And I noticed something else. Jenny wasn't happy. Oh, she smiled for the cameras, posted glowing updates about her pregnancy. But when she thought no one was watching, her face fell into lines of worry and exhaustion. At restaurants, I saw Ryan check his phone while she talked, saw him snap at her when she reached for expensive items on the menu. The fairy tale was already cracking. 2 months after the betrayal, Sarah called with urgency in her voice. Kevin, I need you to meet me. Now. I found something big. We met at a diner on the outskirts of town. She slid a folder across the table. "Read it." Inside was a medical report, Jenny's medical report, from a private clinic 3 towns over. "How did you get this?" I asked. "Don't ask, just read." I read. It took me 3 tries to understand what I was seeing. Jenny had undergone genetic testing, standard procedure for pregnancies, and the results confirmed what I'd known all along. The baby was mine. The genetic markers matched samples they had on file from when I'd donated blood at the same clinic last year. "She knows," I whispered. "Jenny knows the baby is mine." "She's always known," Sarah confirmed. "Ryan knows too. They both know, this entire thing, telling everyone the baby is Ryan's. It's all a lie. They're committing paternity fraud, Kevin." "Why? Why go through all this if they know the truth?" Sarah pulled out another document. "Because of this. Ryan took out a life insurance policy on his unborn child. $5 million. The paperwork lists him as the father." My blood ran cold. That's insurance fraud. That's felony insurance fraud. And there's more. Jenny's listed as the beneficiary if anything happens to Ryan. But Kevin, look at the date. This policy was taken out before Jenny even got pregnant. I stared at the date. 3 weeks before my anniversary trip to Vermont. 3 weeks before Jenny had conceived. They plan to have a baby just to commit insurance fraud? I think it's worse than that. Sarah's voice dropped. I think they're planning something with the Meridian contract. Something big that could go wrong. Ryan's overextended, drowning in debt despite appearances. If something happened to him, an accident on one of his unsafe construction sites, for example, Jenny would get the insurance payout plus his assets, and the baby gives her legitimate claim to everything. She's planning to kill him? Or let him get killed? I found emails discussing life insurance payouts, discussing how certain accidents on construction sites are impossible to prove as negligence. Kevin, I think Jenny's playing Ryan the same way she played you. I sat back, my mind racing. Jenny and Ryan had betrayed me together, but they were also betraying each other. The question was, how could I use that? "There's one more thing," Sarah said quietly. "The restraining order? It was based on fabricated evidence. Ryan recorded a video that made it look like you were threatening them, but I found the raw footage. He edited it. They committed perjury to get that restraining order. Everything they'd done, every move they'd made, was built on lies and crimes. They'd constructed this perfect image while committing fraud, perjury, theft, and conspiracy. They'd handed me everything I needed to destroy them. I just had to be smart about when and how to use it. Sarah, I need you to document everything, every crime, every lie, every fraud. Build me a case so airtight, even Ryan's expensive lawyers can't wiggle out of it." "What are you planning, Kevin?" I thought about my son, growing inside Jenny, being used as a pawn in their games. I thought about my company, my reputation, my life. All of it torn apart by 2 people who thought they were untouchable. "I'm planning to give them exactly what they deserve," I said. "But not yet. Let them feel safe. Let them think they've won. Let them get sloppy and arrogant and make more mistakes. And then? And then I'm going to systematically dismantle everything they've built, just like they did to me. But I'm going to do it legally, publicly, and so thoroughly that they'll never recover." Sarah smiled grimly. "I'll keep digging, but Kevin, be careful. Desperate people do desperate things." I left that diner with a folder full of evidence and a plan forming in my mind. Jenny and Ryan thought they'd buried me. They were about to learn that some graves aren't deep enough to keep a determined man down. My phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. "Kevin, it's Amanda. We need to talk. They're planning something bad. Please call me." I stared at that text for a long moment. Amanda, the woman who'd betrayed me, who'd sold my secrets to Ryan. This could be another trap, or it could be the break I needed. Either way, the game was changing. And this time, I was ready to play. I met Amanda at a coffee shop across town, one where nobody from our industry would recognize us. She looked terrible. dark circles under her eyes, hands shaking as she clutched her cup. "Why should I trust you?" I asked, sitting across from her. "You sold me out for money." "Because I'm next," she whispered. "Kevin, Ryan's done with me. He paid me to spy on you. But now he's telling people I embezzled from your company. He's setting me up to take the fall for everything." "Everything?" "The Meridian fraud, the stolen bids, all of it. He's got forged documents with my signature, fake email accounts in my name. If this goes south, I'm going to prison while he walks away clean." Tears streamed down her face. "I'm so sorry, Kevin. I was drowning in debt, and he offered me a way out. I didn't know he was planning all this. I should have felt satisfaction seeing her broken like this, but all I felt was tired." "What do you know, Amanda?" "Ryan's planning to fake an accident at the Meridian site, something big enough to trigger the insurance policy, but that he can survive. Jenny thinks he's going to die, but he's planning to disappear with the money and leave her holding the bag. He's been moving assets to offshore accounts she doesn't know about." The pieces clicked into place. Ryan was planning to betray Jenny the same way they'd both betrayed me. "When?" I demanded. "Next week, the day after Jenny gives birth. He wants the baby born first, so the insurance is ironclad. Then he triggers the accident, disappears, and Jenny gets investigated for insurance fraud while he's on a beach in the Caymans with millions. And Jenny? Does she know?" "She suspects something's wrong. I've seen her going through his office, making copies of documents. I think she's planning her own exit strategy. 2 scorpions in a bottle, both ready to sting." "Perfect." "Give me everything you have," I said. "Documents, recordings, passwords, everything." Amanda slid a flash drive across the table. "It's all here. Kevin, I know I don't deserve your help, but please, don't let him destroy me too." I took the flash drive. "I'll do what's right. That's more than either of you did for me." That night, I met with Sarah and my lawyer, Tom Chen, Sarah's brother and the sharpest attorney I knew. We went through everything. The insurance fraud, the paternity fraud, the corporate espionage, the bribery, the perjury. "This is enough to put them both away for years," Tom said, his eyes gleaming. "But if you want maximum impact, we need to be strategic about the reveal." "I want them exposed publicly," I said. "I want everyone who congratulated them, everyone who believed their lies, to see exactly who they are." "Then we do it at the hospital," Sarah suggested. "Jenny's due in 3 days. Ryan will be there playing the devoted father. The media will be there because he's been promoting this birth like it's a royal baby. We expose them in front of everyone." It was perfect, poetic even. The next 3 days were a blur of preparation. Tom filed motions with the court, sealed until the right moment. Sarah coordinated with the police and the FBI, because corporate fraud across state lines meant federal charges. I compiled every piece of evidence into an ironclad case, and then I did something they'd never expect. I called my former mother-in-law, Jenny's mom, Patricia, and told her everything. I showed her the genetic test results, the evidence of fraud, the emails planning to use her grandson as a pawn. Patricia had never liked Ryan. She'd cried at our wedding, telling me she was grateful Jenny had found a good man. Now she cried again, but for different reasons. "That's my grandson," she whispered, looking at the paternity results. "Kevin, I'm so sorry. I believed her lies." "Help me," I said. "Help me protect your grandson from what they're planning." She nodded, steel in her eyes. "Tell me what to do." On the day Jenny went into labor, Ryan posted about it immediately. "My son is coming. Heading to St. Mary's Hospital now. Can't wait to meet you, baby boy. Best day ever." I was already there, waiting in a conference room Tom had arranged with hospital administration. With me were Tom, Sarah, 2 FBI agents, 3 police detectives, and Patricia. We watched the monitors as Jenny was admitted, as Ryan played the devoted father-to-be in the waiting room, giving interviews to the local news crew he'd invited. Ryan Harris, successful developer, welcoming his first child. "It's a beautiful day for the Harris family," the reporter gushed. 8 hours later, my son was born. The nurses brought him out, and Ryan held him up for the cameras, tears streaming down his face. "My boy," he said. "My perfect boy." That's when we made our move. Tom nodded to the FBI agents. They walked into the waiting room with police backup. The cameras were still rolling. "Ryan Harris?" The lead agent's voice cut through the celebration. "You're under arrest for insurance fraud, corporate fraud, bribery of a public official, and conspiracy." Ryan's face went white. "What? There must be some mistake." "Jennifer Harris, you're also under arrest for conspiracy to commit fraud, perjury, and theft." Jenny, still in her hospital bed holding our son, screamed, "No, you can't do this! I just gave birth!" "You'll be allowed to recover under guard," the detective said calmly, "but you're both facing serious federal charges." The reporter's cameras captured everything. Ryan's face twisting in panic, Jenny crying, clutching the baby, the handcuffs clicking into place. And then I walked into the room. "Kevin?" Jenny's voice was barely a whisper. "What did you do?" "What you should have expected," I said calmly. "I documented every crime you both committed. The corporate espionage, the theft of my money, the paternity fraud, the insurance fraud, all of it." Ryan lunged at me, but the officers held him back. "You bastard! You were supposed to stay down! You were supposed to disappear!" "I did disappear," I said. "I became exactly what you wanted me to be. Nothing. And while you were busy celebrating your victory, I was building a case so airtight that your expensive lawyers can't save you." Tom stepped forward, handing documents to Jenny. "Mrs. Peterson, and yes, you're still legally Mrs. Peterson until the divorce is final. These are the results of the paternity test ordered by the court. The baby you just gave birth to is legally Kevin's son. The genetic evidence is irrefutable." Jenny's face crumbled. "No." "Yes," I said. "You used my child as a weapon against me. You committed fraud using my son. But here's what's going to happen now. You're both going to prison. The insurance policy is void due to fraud. All the assets you stole, including my $200,000, will be returned. And my son will never be a pawn in your games again." Patricia stepped forward, her face hard. "I'm filing for emergency custody on Kevin's behalf. You're both unfit parents. That baby deserves better than two criminals." "Mom?" Jenny looked at Patricia with desperate eyes. "You're siding with him?" "I'm siding with my grandson," Patricia said coldly. "Something you should have done from the beginning." Ryan was still struggling against the officers. "The Meridian contract! My company! You can't do this!" "Your company is under investigation," Sarah said, stepping forward. "The falsified safety reports, the substandard materials, the bribed officials, it's all documented. Meridian Development is already severing ties. Your house of cards is collapsing, Ryan." I watched as they led Ryan away, still shouting threats and curses. He'd gone from the triumphant father-to-be to a criminal in handcuffs, all captured on camera for the evening news. Jenny was crying now, great heaving sobs as nurses tried to calm her. "Kevin, please, the baby needs his mother. Please." I looked at my son, sleeping peacefully in a hospital bassinet, unaware of the chaos around him. He had my nose, my father's chin. He was mine in every way that mattered. "You're right," I said quietly. "He needs a mother, but he needs one who'll protect him, not use him. You'll have supervised visitation rights once you're out of prison, if you're ever out of prison." Tom handed her another document. "This is the divorce petition being filed immediately. Kevin is requesting full custody with supervised visitation for you, pending the outcome of your criminal trial. Given the charges against you, I expect the judge will agree." I turned to leave, but Patricia stopped me, placing my son in my arms for the first time. He was so small, so perfect, so innocent. My throat tightened. "What are you going to name him?" Patricia asked softly. I looked down at my son, then back at Jenny. Broken, defeated, the fairy tale shattered. "Justice," I said. "His name is Justice." The reporters were outside, cameras flashing, microphones thrust forward. Tom had prepared a statement, but I waved it away. "My name is Kevin Peterson," I said, my voice steady and clear. 3 months ago, the people you just saw arrested tried to destroy me. They stole my wife, my money, my business opportunities, and tried to steal my son. They committed multiple felonies because they thought they were untouchable. They thought I would just disappear quietly. I adjusted Justice in my arms, and he made a small sound, his tiny hand wrapping around my finger. But here's what they didn't understand. You can take everything from a man, his money, his reputation, his home, but you can't take his will to fight for what's right. You can't take his determination to protect his child, and you can't escape justice forever, no matter how carefully you plan. I looked directly into the camera, to everyone who believed their lies, who congratulated them, who thought I was nothing. You just witnessed what happens when truth wins over deception. My son will grow up knowing that his father never stopped fighting for him, and Ryan Harris and Jennifer Peterson will spend years behind bars knowing they destroyed themselves through their own greed and arrogance. A reporter called out, "Mr. Peterson, how does it feel to have your revenge?" I smiled, the first real smile in 3 months. This isn't revenge. Revenge is personal and messy. This is justice. Cold, legal, and permanent. They built their empire on lies and crimes. I simply documented everything and let the law do its job. The truth didn't need embellishment. It just needed daylight. I turned away from the cameras, holding my son close. Tom, Sarah, and Patricia walked with me to the parking lot where my truck waited, still with the elephant-wrapped crib in the back. "What now?" Sarah asked. "Now I take my son home," I said. "I rebuild my company with the returned assets. I raise Justice to be nothing like his mother or Ryan, and I live my life knowing that the people who tried to destroy me destroyed themselves instead." Patricia touched my arm. "Kevin, I know I failed you before, but I want to help. Justice needs family who will love him the right way." "I know," I said, "and he's got it. We'll figure this out together." I buckled Justice into the car seat I'd installed that morning, the one that had been waiting for 3 months. As I drove away from St. Mary's Hospital, I glanced in the rearview mirror one last time. Police cars surrounded the entrance. News vans lined the street. Inside, 2 criminals who'd thought they were invincible were facing the consequences of their choices. I'd started this journey as a broken man who'd lost everything. I was ending it as a father with his son, with justice served, with my reputation restored, and with the knowledge that sometimes the best revenge is simply letting bad people destroy themselves while you build something better. Justice made a small cooing sound from the back seat. I reached back, touching his tiny hand. "It's just you and me now, buddy," I said softly. "And I promise you, no one will ever use you as a weapon again. You're my son, and I'll spend every day proving that you were worth fighting for." In the rearview mirror, the hospital disappeared from view. Ahead of me, the road stretched forward into a future I'd thought was lost forever. They'd tried to bury me. They'd forgotten that some seeds grow stronger in the dark. And now, holding my son, my name cleared, my life reclaimed, I realized the truth. I hadn't just survived their betrayal. I'd won.